Another spicy Mock Draft Monday is on tap for all of the fantasy fanatics tapped in to the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Drafted from 3 and 8, baby. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who doesn't love a good mock draft? And on the latest edition of your daily 30-minute source for fantasy hockey, Steele and I will be breaking down our latest Mock Draft Monday, drafting from the 3rd and 8th spot. What is good, my friends? Welcome back inside the lab. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. We see you, we appreciate you, and we're getting after it.
Yes, we are. Monday mock draft number 2 special on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you so much for making it your first listen every single day. Like Flip said off the top, drafting from the 3rd and 8th position in a 10-team league. It's a standard format, which Flip and I are very comfortable and used to. 2 centers, 2 left wings, 2 right wings, 4 defensemen, 2 goalies, and a couple of bench spots.
Yes,
and
sir.
The categories are relatively the same one to the mock draft we did last week. Goals, assists, power play points, shots. There are no hits. There are no blocks. And then the goalie categories are the same as well. Save percentage, goals against average, shutouts, and wins. Flip, I'm drafting from the 3rd spot. You're drafting from the 8th spot. Again, we're doing relatively the same thing we did last time. We're drafting who we would take in those positions. We're going to have some fun and creative angles in the future mock drafts we do, but I'm super excited to be back. It's been a week since I've been on the podcast.
Yes, sir.
Happy to be back talking hockey with you, my friend.
First and foremost, hope you're feeling better. Glad to have you back as always. Got to give a shout out that I forgot to our friends from Monarch Money. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. You know, we got to get those plugs in still. I'm fired up for this mock draft. I think I'm in an interesting spot here, and I've got 2 players that I might be targeting with the 8th spot. I'm thinking maybe Auston Matthews, maybe Brady Tkachuk if I get lucky. We'll have a look. You're up at 3, though, and I have a feeling I know who you'll be taking if Nathan MacKinnon is still on the board at 3, which I think is a steal.
It will be a mistake if Nathan MacKinnon is left there at 3. And we've talked about this. The top 3 guys, I mean, even the top 4 guys, you could really go with anyone. McDavid, Draisaitl, Kucherov, MacKinnon, those guys make into the top 4. But I think if somehow, and he does, Nathan MacKinnon drops to 3rd overall, I'm going to pick him up right here.
Sweet.
And I'm super excited for this player. If you can draft this guy, he gives an abundance of goals, assists, points, plus, minus. Of course, shots on goal over 300 consistently as well. The blocks and hits, those are just cherry on tops for any stats that he brings into the table. But to me, Nathan MacKinnon is the 1st overall pick. I know Connor McDavid is McJesus. He's a god to a lot of fantasy owners out there, but I think Nathan MacKinnon is in the exact same tier. And again, I put him slightly ahead of McDavid.
I think this is a dream scenario should you get the 3rd overall draft choice in your draft and Nathan MacKinnon falls to you at 3. The pick was made for you, Steele. There might be some debate about if you're at 1. Do you think about McDavid at 3 and McKinnon's on the board? That's a lock situation. You're taking Nathan MacKinnon. I've got the 8th pick up here. We got Pasternak, Auston Matthews, Rantanen, Quinn Hughes, and Brady Tkachuk all in this realm still. I love Brady Tkachuk for that peripheral value, but I'm going to take Auston Matthews. I think a lot of people are overlooking this player. He's still also not getting nearly enough credit for rounding out his overall game. 89 block shots last year, Steele. I know this league doesn't count him, but most do. He's been chipping in with around 70, 80, 90 hits. Last year, the hits were down. However, this is a player that's going to need to carry this team this year. Does that always translate pressure into performance? No, it doesn't. But at the 8th spot, I think I'm going to get Auston Matthews in a really big year this season. That's my angle on it, Steele, so I'm happy to get Poppy at 8.
Yeah, and projected for 50 goals, so he should be hitting that 50-goal mark once again, like you said, rounding out his two-way game, also his playmaking ability, 4 consecutive years of 40-plus assists, 45-plus assists, and he's projected to do so once again. Just projection of shy of 100 points this season without Mitch Marner, of course, in the lineup. We do have our first outlier pick of this mock draft, Connor Hellebuyck going 6th overall. We've talked about letting goaltenders slide, and while I do believe, again, Connor Hellebuyck is the best fantasy hockey goaltender by a mile, he is in a tier of his own. I would not be drafting Connor Hellebuyck with this 6th overall pick. Maybe in the late first round if you're in a 16-team league. But again, goaltenders, personally, I believe you should be letting slide down a little bit as you can get more value for your buck later in the draft. And you really want to make sure your forward and defensive group are set. The tone is set early with these drafts.
That's well said. And usually, so I just took Brady Tkachuk there with the 13th overall pick, my first second round pick. Usually what I like to do, Steele, is follow up. If I got like Cale Makar in the first round, let's say, I want to go with a forward with my second pick and flip it around, get a really good top-ranked D-man off the board at second. However, with Brady Tkachuk in there and the step that I think the Ottawa Senators are going to take, and let's say most leagues that you and I compete in, and I do get all of those block shot pims and hits love, I think Brady Tkachuk is one of those power forward prototypical fantasy dynamos that if you get one or two of those guys on your team week to week, you are hard to take down in categorical leagues. So to give me Brady Tkachuk at 13th overall.
Yeah, again, good pick. I think when we're looking at this format compared to what we typically do, because there's no hits or blocks in this format, he loses a little bit of value. But again, if you're in those banger leagues, Brady Tkachuk is the pick to go with. He brings so much to the table right
here. Dual eligibility, too.
Dual eligibility. I was looking at Kyle Connor with my pick. There's a few options right here, but I'm feeling really confident with Mitch Marner in Vegas. I really do believe that with him and Jack Eichel, it's going to be one of the most dangerous duos in the Western Conference. And that, again, brings the Vegas Golden Knights right back into Stanley Cup contention, especially with the top 6 forward group they have. I know they lose Alex Pietrangelo on the blue line, but regardless of that, a guy like Shea Theodore is up to the task and ready to step up in his absence over the next year. And then again, if you fall into that 0G strategy, you're looking to draft a goaltender later in the draft, Adin Hill is a very viable option as your first or second goaltender.
Most definitely. You're back up on the board. You and I both agree about Vegas this year, Adin Hill or otherwise, but back over to you, my friend. 23rd overall pick here.
23rd overall. There's a lot of really good options as well. Like I really like Sidney Crosby. I do think he can also put up a 90-point season once again. You got Jake Gensel. I really like Philip Forsberg, and this might be a team that gets a little bit overlooked this year because of how they performed last season. Maybe we were overexcited with what the team did in the offseason, obviously bringing in Marchessault, Brady Shea, and Steven Stamkos as well. UC Saros didn't really have the bounce back season we would have liked to see. Roman Josi got hurt and was out of the lineup for the last 20 games of the season. That could be a very good pick as well for your team. But Philip Forsberg brings a lot to the table. I like the way he plays his game. Projected another good season, 30-plus goals, 45-plus assists. You know he shoots the puck a ton. He hits as well. He brings the physical aspect to the game for the Nashville Predators. So I like Philip Forsberg with that 3rd overall pick of mine.
Tough for me to invest in the Nashville Predators. I'm not going to disagree with your take on Philip Forsberg because it's spot on accurate. I don't know what to expect from this team. I think you're right. I think some of these pieces will definitely be overlooked, but question marks abound, Steele. What's UC Saros going to do? Is Roman Josi still got that elite level in the tank? Speaking of elite level defensemen, I want a D-man now. I got to start balancing out my squad. This isn't rocket science. This is how we do this. Evan Bouchard, say what you will about his mental lapses, his defensive liability. This guy is going to bring you a ton of fantasy offensive value. That's a lock. He's going to give you the shots on net, power play points on one of the best power play teams in the league. You got to start trying to get a little bit granular with these angles with your team. Let's go with a 70-plus point D-man in Bouchard for me at the 28th overall pick, Mr. Rodin. I'll make my 33rd overall pick very quickly here, and then we'll get to break. I am feeling pretty good about my team. I have a feeling we're going to start seeing some goalies fly off the board here in a hot second, though. I don't know how you feel about this next pick. I'm going to do it because last time I took heat, and I'm going to switch it up this time, and I'm going to buy into Macklin Celebrini as my 33rd overall pick.
I think it's a really good pick. And what you see with this San Jose Sharks team is the future is bright. That's really all I have to say about this team right now is they've got a lot of young players, a lot of young prospects. They have some veteran presence as well. You're hoping a little bit, maybe some magic between the pipes as well for their tandem in the blue crease. But Macklin Celebrini is going to bring a lot to the table. I actually think he's in a better situation than Connor Bedard is than Connor Bedard is in Chicago right now. So a lot more talent to work with, a lot more players that he can create chemistry with, and it doesn't have to solely rely on Celebrini every single night like it really does with Connor Bedard. I was really hoping to get Rasmus Dahlin there. I wanted to get my first defenseman, so I'm still going to do that right now. Victor Hedman, Josh Morrissey, still on the table. You got Lane Hudson, you got Jacob Chikrin.
Ooh.
Because this isn't a typical banger league format, I'm not going to go with my typical guy in Mackenzie Weegar. I'm actually going to go with Victor Hedman as my first defenseman off the board here. I still think he is going to, you know what? It drafted for me. I was a little bit too late there. So I think I ended up taking Alexander Ovechkin, which I'm still very happy with because he brings the goals and the assists. I will now go with Josh Morrissey because I was late to the show there with that draft pick. That will be my first defenseman. It kind of flipped the way I wanted to go with my picks here. I was going to go Josh Morrissey and then Tage Thompson, but now I got Alexander Ovechkin and Josh Morrissey.
And this is the nature of Rapid Fire Mock Draft Live.
Yes, it really
There's going to be a few spicy picks, Mr. Rodin. Now, when you're taking a look at my team, I got my center positions locked down with Matthews and Celebrini. I got Tkachuk at the left wing. It's time for a right winger. Right winger's on the board right now. I'm looking at Connor Bedard. That could be a sneaky little pick right there, Steele. If he's still on the board, I might be taking him. If it was another league where those hits and the PIMs and the blocks really do weigh it out, I'm probably going to draft a player like perhaps Brandon Hagel or look down this list. But Connor Bedard is there. I think the offensive style of my team is really starting to load up. I got dual eligibility. I'm going to let my next pick be an auto draft while we do this ad read, and we'll see how it looks. Right now, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even when they're due, whether it's a 401k, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. At Monarch Money, there's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Make sure you're taking control of your finances today at Monarch Money. Code Locked On NHL at monarchmoney.com. And check out for half off your first year with code Locked On NHL. MonarchMoney.com, code Locked On NHL for 50% off your first year.
And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. I'm looking to take my first goaltender in this spot right now. A lot of good options out there. Sergei Bobrovsky, UC Saros is still out there. Linus Allmark, Darcy Kemper. You know what? Actually, I am going to go with Sergei Bobrovsky. I still think at 37, 38 years old, he brings so much to the table. We saw how he played the last 2 seasons in the postseason for the Florida Panthers. So I like what he's I think his projections are a little bit low, actually. I think he can bring a little bit more there to the table. I'm going to try to fill out some of my center and right winger, fill out those positions right now. You still got John Tavares. Look, I think John Tavares is one of the most disrespected fantasy and just and players in the game right now. You know, a lot of people want to talk about his speed, how he's not quick anymore, he can't keep up. It really doesn't matter because you don't have to be the fastest player. You're not, no one's the fastest player except for the top 3 guys in the league right now. John Tavares just does the right things every single time. He's great in the face-off circle. He goes to the hard areas in the blue paint, especially on the power play. He's great. He's got great hand-eye coordination. He's always looking for those deflections. John Tavares, he's got such a great hockey IQ. And when it comes to fantasy hockey, I think we talk about how sometimes it doesn't transfer over. It really does for John Tavares. Projected 37 goals, 36 assists. I can see a 70-plus point season for the former captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Just been steady as she goes, consistent. One of the best quiet leaders that we've seen in the NHL in a number of years. So my auto draft pick gave me Ilya Sorokin. That's still too early, in my opinion, even for a really good goaltender. So I still would have done what you did and waited another round or two. Now I need to fill out my left wing position. You know how I feel about Seth Jarvis. He's on the board with Konechny, Slavkovsky, Ehlers. I'm going to go with Seth Jarvis. He plays a little bit of everywhere as well, Steele. You're going to basically be able to slot him in everywhere. Now I'm going back to my blue line because there's going to be a pretty steep drop-off in terms of good options on the blue line over these next couple of rounds. And when you look at Mo Seider, Thomas Harley, Noah Dobson, I would almost have immediately gone to Mo Seider for all of our formats. But for this league, with a little bit more emphasis on the regular categories, and we know Thomas Harley is probably taking that top power play one spot, I'm going to go with my boy Thomas Harley as well, Steele.
Don't know that.
Sticking to my guns at least with Thomas Harley and Seth Jarvis. Good young player, one of the best rising D-men in the league. I still think he will be power play one, but maybe your boy Heiskanen will slip in still.
Hey, whoa. Don't disrespect me like that. Don't disrespect me. We don't want this to be another Heiskanen situation. No, we don't want Harley to fall into that Heiskanen role. Yeah. Exactly. We don't want that happening again. There's a few good options. I'm gonna fill out my last right wing position here. I'm looking at Alex Tuch. I'm looking at Konechny. I'm looking at Lucas Raymond. I am gonna go with Lucas Raymond. I think he's an absolute stud when it comes to goals and assists. I think when you pair him up once again with Dylan Larkin, Patrick Kane, all those guys in the top 6 forward group, Lucas Raymond is going to be such a investment for your fantasy hockey team that is going to pay off.
I 100% agree. I see some really intriguing names here, Steele. I see JJ Peterka still on the board. I think there's going to be a big year from him. I see Drake Batherson. You know how I feel about him. This is the part of the draft where if you don't stick to your strategy or stick to a strategy, things can go off the rails really quickly. And I've been a victim of just starting to draft the players that you like and perhaps not following in the footsteps or the pattern of what your team needs. So right now, I still need wingers. I need to draft either a left winger or a right winger. I mentioned Drake Batherson with that dual eligibility. I think, once again, that's 3 players in a row, Steele, that I'm high on and I've stuck to my guns on over the years. I'm going to go with Drake Batherson. Love this player all day, up and down. I get dual eligibility once again, allowing me a whole bunch of options to plug and play.
Yeah, it really does. You're coming back up here in round 10 as well. And we've had some really good picks here. I'm looking at this one team who's drafting in the 6th position, Luke. And at first, I was very hesitant about his draft order. He went Connor Hellebuyck and then Andrei Vasilevsky in the first 2 rounds. So he's definitely going goalie heavy, but I'm actually really liking his team right now. Hellebuyck, Vasilevsky, Reinhart, Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson, Martin Necas, Alex DeBrincat, Moritz Seider, and Rupe Hintz. So sometimes it actually does pay off maybe to go goalie heavy because there's still some really good options, especially in a smaller league like a 10-team league like we're doing right here on this Monday mock draft. But who did you just select right here while I was venting a little bit?
Matty Knies, and I'm starting to like the makeup of my team as well, Steele. Again, this is one of those situations that I think Matt Knies is a player a lot of people are going to reach on here right now around I believe we're in the 10th or so round. I think that's a really good value spot for Matty Knies. 11th round, 10th round.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think he's going to pop off playing alongside Auston Matthews, especially in the absence, again, of Mitch Marner. You put William Nylander in the mix as well. That is a very dangerous line right there, especially with Matthew Knies being more of a physical presence right now, but still brings it offensively in front of the net and just has such a skill when he enters the offensive zone. I went with Alex Tuck. So he went with he was my first bench player of this draft. I also ended up going with John Carlson, who I believe is going to bring so much to the table for the Washington Capitals, alongside, of course, Jacob Chikrin and what he brings as well. You're coming back up with this next pick. Who are you looking at? Which position are you going with?
I went with the blue line. I took Jackson Lacombe. He was the highest ranked D-man still on the board, according to Yahoo anyway, and you know how I feel about him. This is almost like the Flips young boy team here that I've talked about every single year, and it's playing out for me. Let's see how that actually would do in the standings, though. We'll wrap up this draft right after the break, right after I make this pick. Make sure you guys are here the rest of the week as well. We've got lots more content coming your way. Steele, I'm going to take a little flyer here on a really good goal scorer with Dylan Guenther.
That is a great pick. That is a really good pick. This Utah Mammoth club is one to keep an eye out for, with all of their players alongside, again, Clayton Keller, who I believe is one of the most underrated superstars in the National Hockey League right now. I actually am going to put him on Superstar Watch this upcoming season. You've got Logan Cooley in the mix, who brings so much to the table as a playmaker for this hockey team in Utah. I'm going to take my second goaltender right now. I'm looking at UC Saros. I really want him to come back and have a bounce back season. Expected to play 60 games this year, only expected to have 24 wins. Everyone's kind of just looking away from this Nashville team, but he still brings a lot to it's really between Saros and Joseph Wall. You know what? I am going to go with UC Saros. He's going to get more starts rather than Joseph Wall. And hey, I can still draft him as my third goaltender. Most
definitely. There's a couple of other interesting goalie names there as well. I still think St. Louis is going to be a pretty good team. Steele. Jordan Binnington is a risky option, but he is a good goaltender. He proved it last year. It's just sometimes his numbers get a little inflated. Peter Kochetkov is risky. Jeremy Swayman, question mark. The name, hey, speaking of all the players that I've talked about, Lucas Dostal's there on the board, Steele, and if he's still there, I might be taking my Anaheim Duck goalie, which doesn't exactly instill a ton of confidence, but that kid is for real. And if I'm going with the Flip Young Boy team, he's coming back. So,
yeah, really does. Look, I'm going to take Dylan Strome in this position. I think this is an absolute steal in the 13th round, projected for 30 goals, 54 points. He's going to get a ton of power play points as well. The peripherals is where he starts to lack. You would hope to maybe get somewhere upwards of 180, 200 shots. Hits and blocks is not part of his game. I was actually expecting and hoping to get Nazem Kadri there, but he was drafted the pick before me on this Monday mock draft special. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast your first listen every single day. When we come back after the break, it's more Monday mock draft. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip, Livingstone, and Steele Rodin. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it and all that love we get throughout the summer season. We're ramping back up, getting ready for the fantasy hockey season. That's why we do these Monday mock drafts, and we'll bring all the insight and news you need to win your fantasy hockey league this season throughout the entire year. Flip, over to you, my friend. How do you feel so far about your team?
I do really love my forward group. Auston Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, Seth Jarvis, Drake Batherson, Connor Bedard, and Dylan Guenther. I'm a little bit worried about the back end of my blue line here. Colton Parayko, Jackson Lacombe, little bit risky. I was running out of options there, Steele, to fill in my blue line, and that's what tells me you should perhaps load up on a couple of D-men there when I was taking back-to-back-to-back forwards. A little bit harder to balance out that blue line, and they go really quick. Because now you're looking into the Brock Fabers, the Cam Fowlers, the Jake Wallmans of the world, and you're going to have to do a little bit more nitty-gritty digging.
Yeah, you really are. And again, this is a 10-team league. There's still so many really good options out there. Sam Bennett, Joel Eriksson-Ek, Mark Stone is a really good option as well if you're projecting to play close to a full season. This is going to be my bounce back player of the year is Matthew Barzal. I'm going to take the dual eligibility center right wing position. Again, a guy who only played 30 games last year, 20 points in those 30 games. we're still waiting for him to get back to what we saw in his rookie season. He's only done it twice in his career so far, but I really do believe alongside him and Bo Horvat, I know Noah Dobson's gone now, but there are some really good options. I'm going to take a risky pick here. I believe you drafted this player last time in our Monday mock draft, and I'm going to fill out my defensive core with Sam Rinzel of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Really, really deep cut, and a player that I think is going to fly completely under the radar. Steele, I did take him in a previous mock draft, and I really like that pick. This is the type of the spot of the draft where I like to go after some of these young players that I got my eye on. Cutter Gauthier and these Anaheim Ducks are one of those kinds of players. I also think there's some sneaky good value left in Pierre-Luc Dubois, who had a really good bounce back year, who's going to get a lot of run out in that top 6 in Washington. That clearly is still going to be really good this season. So I'm going to take Pierre-Luc Dubois with my last pick. Another good mock draft Monday episode, my friend.
Yes, it really is. I'm coming up on my last pick here. I'm going to take a third goaltender. And there's a lot of really good goaltenders to keep an eye out for. UPL of the Buffalo Sabres could have a really good season. I actually do like John Gibson going to the Detroit Red Wings alongside Cam Talbot. Karel Vejmelka is probably the one I'm most intrigued with. Joseph Woll is still here.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Joseph Woll just because I do believe Toronto will still be the better team. But if you're talking about 0G and you're talking about taking goaltenders and letting them fall down the draft board, I think Karel Vejmelka is the perfect example of letting a goaltender slide and drafting him as your second or third goaltender, and can really set this Utah team up for success. There's a lot to love, like I said, with where the team is headed and where they are at right now. But again, I really think Karel Vejmelka, I had him on my team, a few of my teams actually last year. And I think he's going to be a very good example of that 0G strategy and letting those goaltenders fall down the board and letting the value speak for itself.
Yes,
so let's take a look at Flip's team. Really good draft so far. Good draft overall, especially in the first couple of rounds. You went back-to-back with Celebrini and Connor Bedard, but Auston Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, Evan Bouchard, Celebrini, Bedard, taking your first goaltender, I believe, in the sixth round. Elias Sorokin, Seth Jarvis, Harley, Drake Batherson, Matthew Nyes, Jackson Lacombe, Dylan Gunther, Lucas Dostal, Colton Pareka, Cutter Gauthier, and Pierre-Luc Dubois to round it out.
Thank you, sir. Feeling really good about that team. And I'm ready to get after it this year, Steele.
Yes, we are indeed ready to get after it. I'm pretty happy with the way my team shaped out. Again, I kind of slacked a little bit and forgot to hit the draft button when I was looking to get Rasmus Dahlin and Tage Thompson back-to-back. Instead, Luke over there in the 6th position took those players from me. But I like the way I started out here. Nathan MacKinnon, Mitch Marner, Philip Forsberg, Alex Ovechkin, Josh Morrissey, Sergei Bobrovsky, John Tavares, Lucas Raymond, Noah Dobson, Alex Tuck, John Carlson, UC Saros, Strome, Barzell, Rinzel, and Wall. So I went with 3 goaltenders. I always like having that third string goaltender on my team, especially on those week-to-week bases. When you're trying to win those head-to-head categories, you need those extra goaltenders to help you. And I believe those 3 goaltenders, Bobrovsky, UC Saros, and Joseph Woll, are going to be really good this season.
I like that trio for you. You balance yourself out really nice there. Some people don't always adhere to those 3 goalie moves. I like it. Very well balanced team. Good draft for both of us, I'd say.
Yes, I was indeed. We're going to be coming back, of course, next Monday with a new Monday mock draft. We are hoping to get some of our listeners in as well. We would really love to have some of you join us for these Monday mock drafts. We'll send out a tweet kind of letting you know ahead of time what time we are looking to record and get this Monday mock draft recorded on Sunday. That's when we do that. So stay tuned in on Twitter. If you want to join us, message us on Instagram, leave a comment below on the YouTube channel. We'll try to get everybody in as much as possible for these Monday mock drafts. We really want you listeners to participate. Again, we're looking forward to our casual and competitive league this season. That's why we do what we do. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And once again, we'll be back on Wednesday.
Peace.